So, good afternoon, everyone. Wonderful to be back in Reykjavik. And President Grímsson, thank you so much for facilitating this. As you said, we discussed how successful it was at the Arctic Circle Forum in Japan when we brought together for the first time this special group of Arctic ambassadors and senior representatives. And it was such a success that it seemed like it was good to have to focus on this topic here at the Assembly. So during my time at the U.S. Department of State, I saw firsthand how important the contributions that Asian states made, the importance of the contributions they made to the Arctic Council, and how Arctic states have cooperated with non-Arctic states. And it's now 10 years ago that China, India, Japan, Korea, and Singapore all obtained observer status in the Council. And in these last 10 years, Asian involvement and influence in the Arctic, in the Arctic has risen significantly. So Asian states operate some of the most advanced and well-funded science programs in the Arctic region. They are active in the region and have strong economic interests there. Shipping, tourism, energy, and future fisheries are all important areas for them. They and their scientists want to be part of the cutting-edge scientific research done in the region, especially as this relates to climate change. And as the activities of the Arctic Council's working groups begin again, their experts will be present to make strong contributions. So these countries will play an important role in the future of the Arctic. Many non-Arctic states, including Asian countries, also have foreign relations and security motivations. Thus, they want to monitor and understand developments in Arctic geopolitics. So a discussion with these key officials is an opportunity to explore these various interests and potential areas for cooperation. And this is a very special group of senior officials that we have with us today. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists to make some opening remarks, providing their national perspectives. Then I plan to pose some questions to them, and finally, President Grímsson will manage the questions and answers from the audience. So first, Ambassador Gao, good to see you here again. Your turn.
Your Excellency, Mr. Grímsson, and even ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to share my views on Asian countries in Arctic cooperation. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Arctic Circle Assembly. Over the past decade, the Arctic Circle has flourished to become one of the most important platforms for Arctic cooperation. It has also been 10 years since China and 4 other Asian countries became observers of the Arctic Council. I still remember vividly the day when I was in Kiruna, 8 foreign ministers standing in front of us, accepting us as an observer. So that was a great moment I can never forget. We are pleased to see that China's participation in Arctic affairs has been growing, together with the expanding Arctic cooperation worldwide. And the contribution of China and other Asian countries have become an integral part of global Arctic cooperation. In the past decade, China has actively carried out scientific research and continuously deepened its understanding of the Arctic. China has actively promoted environmental protection in the Arctic and responded to impact of climate change. China has actively engaged in international cooperation and constantly contributed to international governance in the Arctic. In the past decade, China actively worked with Asian partners to make Asia's contribution to Arctic affairs. Asian countries have played a unique role in the Arctic governance. China and other Asian countries have held 5 Arctic Circle forums in Asia already. So the COFA agreement includes the 3 Asian state parties, and the first 3 COPs have been or will be held in Korea. So I thank Ambassador Park for that. So China is ready to continue working with Asian neighbors through mechanisms such as China, Japan, Korea high-level dialogue on Arctic affairs, injecting new impetus into global Arctic cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, there are experiences and lessons that can be drawn from past achievement and provide guidance for our future cooperation. Lesson 1, peace and stability make the foundation. Thanks to the long-maintained low tension and high cooperation environment in the Arctic, platforms like the Arctic Circle grow steadily. Tension in the Arctic will not only make it difficult to carry out our cooperation, but also will affect global stability. So the Arctic cannot immune, we know the Arctic cannot immune from any sort of geopolitical conflict, and stand as an absolute instance for exceptionalism. But its unique nature in science, in global economic and social development, and for peoples there, still needs to be recognized and carefully cherished. Lesson 2, dialogue and communication generate driving force. The Arctic is facing huge dual challenges from climate change and geopolitics, which calls for a stronger international cooperation as never before. Sadly, many communication and cooperation mechanisms have come to a halt in the past few years due to the political situation and the pandemic. China looks forward to the early resumption of normal operation of the Arctic Council and the full participation of the observers. So we greatly appreciate Norway's remarkable efforts that have been made in the process of taking over the chairship of the Arctic Council and all the efforts they have done so far. So China is actively resuming face-to-face diplomacy. So happy to see all of you face-to-face diplomacy on Arctic affairs. And stands ready to conduct more exchanges with all parties multilaterally and bilaterally. Lesson 3, non-Arctic states are valuable assets. So this is a shared view voiced by many participants during this assembly. China and other Asian countries can play important roles in the protection, research, development, and governance of the Arctic. We are partners of peoples in the Arctic region, including indigenous peoples in their pursuit of prosperity and development. So everyone can continue to count on Asia's significant and unique role in the Arctic cooperation. China is ready to work with Arctic states, other stakeholders, and other Asian partners to make more contributions to the Arctic affairs. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Gao, thank you very much. And so next,
Sorry for time.
Ambassador Takewaka, perspective from Japan.
Okay. In the interest of time, let me put 2 points together in 3 minutes. All right. Just in terms of the role Japan can play as observer of the Arctic Council on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of our observership since 2013. Let me elaborate 3 points. First, as chair of G7 this year, Prime Minister Kishida has been taking leadership in maintaining and strengthening free and open international order based on the rule of law. Our newly appointed foreign minister, Madam Yoko Kamikawa, is an expert of the Arctic, and she is also keen to ensuring the rule of law. We are also reaching out to the global south, and coincidentally, we have the chair of the G20 here. So the rule of law must be secured in the Arctic. That's first. Second, Japan's first and foremost role in the Arctic is science. We appreciate the resumption of the working groups of the Arctic Council and deeply appreciate the Norwegian chairship. In the third meeting of Arctic Science Ministerial in 2021 and Arctic Circle Japan Forum last March, we received participation of many scientists from abroad who are very helpful in making international networking. So here is a successful example of science diplomacy. Third, for Asia, how we can contribute to what kind of agenda of Arctic Council. We are open to any advice. For example, Japan has been conducting the research activities in the Arctic wildfire since 2040 or even before. From the viewpoint of disaster management, preparedness is crucial for minimizing the damage. In order for us to share our contributions to the Arctic, I wish to see this session, a session of these Asia 5 countries observers, be continued, maybe next year on, as a kind of regular event of the Arctic Circle Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Admiral. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Next, Admiral Khanna of India.
Thank you, Eben, and thank you, Chairman Grímsson, for giving us this opportunity to speak. Our Arctic policy, we were amongst the last nations to release the Arctic policy amongst the observers. It was on 17th of March, 2022, and therefore we have a lot of catching up to do. So very briefly, I have only a couple of minutes, is on science and research. We have aligned our studies that are taking place by the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research with the goals as set out by the various working groups of the Arctic Council. 2-3 key events which have taken place in the last year have been the expedition to the North Pole on Norway's Kronprins Haakon, and one has to thank Norway for facilitating that. Our scientists have participated in the East Greenland Ice Core project. We participate in the Canadian High Arctic Research Station. And what we're going to do is that in our station at Himadri, right now we're operating that station for only 6 months in a year, but we're going to take it up to 365 days. We've opened it up. We've had a large number of people who've opted for this, and right now we're trying to down-select the projects that can be run. Insofar as climate is concerned, we are engaging in enhanced research to find out the teleconnect between the monsoons and the weather patterns in the Arctic. The G20 was a landmark event where several events took place at that time, but two I would like to particularly mention. One was the rollout of the Global Biofuel Alliance, which is 7 nations right now. And the second was the launch of Mission Life, the Lifestyle for Environment, which has now become Lifestyle for Sustainable Development. I'd like to spend a little more time on this. Basically, what we're seeing right now is that no one wants to change their lifestyle, and you're looking at exotic engineering solutions to solve the emissions problem. So be it in bioengineering or sequestration of various types. This reverses the argument totally, that you take personal responsibility and you change your lifestyle itself. And can be very simplistic sort of solutions in basic conservation of switching off lights and fans when you depart your room, being more tolerant to temperature changes, stopping food wastage, Mission Millets that we've launched over here, because millets, as you know, they are pest resistant and they don't require that much irrigation. Essentially, it is at the personal level where you make these changes so that you control your environmental footprint and make things better for all of us. I would say that the Global North has also got a big responsibility in this, because for the Global South, a large part of what is seen by them is aspirational, is what happens in the Global North. So in a sense, you have to make something like driving, weather permitting, of course, an electric two-wheeler as cool as driving a 6-cylinder or 12-cylinder Hummer. If we can make that transition, then we can certainly go a long way in this. Lastly, I would just mention a little bit about economic and human development. Lots happening there, but I'd like to mention Mission Yoga, which has become, we celebrate it every year on the same day as Greenland's National Day, that is on the 21st of June. And this time we took it to the Arctic and the Antarctic. And Chairman Grímsson permitting, next year we would like to bring maybe a couple of yoga instructors over here who are well known and run a couple of sessions in which all of you can participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Ambassador Park, South Korea.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bloom, Chairman Grímsson, for arranging this wonderful event for Asian Observer States. For my initial remarks, I guess we are in the same recognition. All of the 5 Asian observer countries' ambassadors' recognition is the same. First of all, I want to welcome the resumption of the working groups, Arctic Council's working groups, because the new guidelines was adopted at the end of August. And we know this is seemingly a small step, but it is really a meaningful breakthrough. They can lead to more expansion of this difficult situation. And we know Norway, as a chair country, Norway has made great efforts. And I already witnessed this kind of efforts at Warsaw. There is a meeting in Warsaw last month between the chair country Norway and 13 Asian observer states. So at the time, Norway explained to us what has happened and what will happen about the Arctic Council. And it is really useful and informative for all of us. So I really appreciate Norway's efforts, great efforts to keep this multilateral cooperation alive. And secondly, as we all know, this year is the 10th anniversary of our succession, our joining the Arctic Council as observer country, as well as the 10th anniversary of Arctic Circle Assembly. And this year, I think this is a really good opportunity for us to look back, and we can make some kind of stock taking of what had happened and what should have done. And then we can think about the future. What should we do to make more contribution to the Arctic region and Arctic Council? And for your reference, since 2016, we have held our domestic forum. It's called Asia Partnership Week. And this year, we will definitely hold this forum, and we will look back on what happened for the last decades, and we'll discuss what should we do to make more contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Ambassador Tan, Singapore.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. A very good afternoon to all of you. I look at the timer. I think we are 6 minutes behind time. So I will just stick closely to the script so that I will not stray all over the place and overrun the time even further. So I'm very happy to be back to Reykjavik for the 10th editions of the Arctic Circle Assembly. And I participated in the inaugural assembly in 2013, 10 years ago. And in these 10 years, I have seen how the assembly has grown from strength to strength and to become a leading international and regional Arctic forum, and participated by political leaders, policy makers, scientists, youth, and permanent participants. So I want to congratulate Chairman Grímsson and your team for achieving this milestone. This year is also Singapore's 10th anniversary of joining the Arctic Council as an observer state. So with these milestones in mind, I just want to make 3 very brief points about what Singapore has learned in the last decade of our Arctic journey. So the first lesson that we learned is the phrase that we are now very familiar with. That is, what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. And the temperature in the Arctic region is rising faster than expected. And the loss of sea ice, Arctic sea ice, is greater than anticipated. And as a result, the sea level rising is also higher than estimated. So in this instance, we have learned that the Arctic ice water will not stay inside the Arctic region, but instead it will spill over to outside the Arctic region and then overrun some of the low-lying countries around the world, including Singapore. So what happens in the Arctic will also affect the rest of the world. And the second lesson that we learned is that what happens outside the Arctic does not stay outside the Arctic. Arctic is a very unique and yet fragile ecosystem. It is extremely vulnerable, as we have learned, to climate change. So if countries outside the Arctic do not take enough strong actions to control the carbon emissions, greenhouse effects, and so on, then the global temperature rise will actually cause the Arctic to warm up further. And this could be one of the reasons why the Arctic today is warming 4 times faster than the rest of the world. When I first stepped on the Arctic soil, the narrative then, 10 years ago, the narrative then was that Arctic was warming up 2 times faster. So actually he has doubled down, in 10 years' time. And the third lesson we learned is Arctic is enormous. So larger than the individual sizes of the US, China, and Canada. This means that no single Arctic country is able to handle the enormous challenges and threats facing the Arctic on its own. Therefore, it is important that Arctic and non-Arctic countries continue to find ways to cooperate, to work on joint projects, to tackle our common threats and challenges. The Arctic Council and the Arctic Circle Assembly are key platforms to drive regional and international initiatives. If all hands are on deck, I'm very confident that we will be able to work together to make Arctic cool again. Thank you.
So, Ambassador Tan, thank you very much. So now we have a few minutes to have some questions for our panelists. So I'd like to begin with Ambassador Gao, if I may. So I'd like to ask you, reflecting on China's engagement in the Arctic over the past decade, how has China's level of interest and connection with the Arctic changed over that period, in your view?
I don't think our interest in the Arctic affairs has been decreased. Actually, it's remained as the same or even increased. Through the 10 years, we worked and speak for the Arctic in the 10 years to our public. And the people's awareness of the importance of Arctic has grown dramatically. As you can see that in this country, how many Chinese tourists has been here. We have to grab food in the hotel with the other tourists with a very quick hand. Otherwise, you don't get food in the hotel. And these people come to see not only Iceland, Reykjavik, but of course with other Arctic countries. So their impression, their views, their articles, their short messages about the Arctic and the Arctic countries now is really flourishing on our website. So we can see people's awareness about the role of Arctic has grown. So what we need to do is to get this understanding of the Arctic deeper and deeper. So we have to do more about on the science and on a lot of other aspects. So I would expect that this kind of interest in the Arctic in my country will continue to grow. So more perhaps hotels and roads need to be built in this country. And I know this is a rather quickly growing business here in this country, but also in other Arctic states. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Admiral Khanna, can I ask you basically the same question as you think about China's engagement in the Arctic over the past 10 years? How has India's level of interest and connection with the Arctic changed over that period?
So I would agree that I think it's only increased with time. The biggest challenge for us really is, because we are a tropical country and quite distant from the Arctic, is how to get this message across to the rank and file of the country. And therefore, we've embarked on numerous sort of ventures. We've started at the schooling level where we've attempted to bring in more awareness among students about polar studies. We recently had a competition for the introduction of online courses on the Swayam portal, credit-based courses. And we had a vast number of applicants, roughly around 95 applicants, just for 4 to 6 programs, which university students can subscribe to and get credit on that in their undergrad and graduate programs. We have had a series of events in the country run by SAGA, the IDSA, the NCPOR. So the endeavor has always been to create that awareness. The second issue I would say is that whatever we decide, how do you make sure that you implement that? Conversion is always a difficult, you can keep drawing out a roadmap, but conversion always becomes a challenge. And therefore, at least from a government standpoint, we have set up a mechanism where we bring in all stakeholders, in government, be it from, earth sciences or shipping or defense or external affairs, science and technology, environment, climate change. All of us, we meet once every 3 months. We have a discussion as to how far we are progressing, what needs to be done. We communicate with all our embassies, particularly those which are involved in the Arctic states, and we've set up a pretty robust mechanism to ensure that our conversion increases with time. So that's essentially what the big ticket changes have been for us.
Thank you very much. So now, Ambassador Takewaka, can I ask you, now that the working groups of the Council have resumed some of their functions, are there ways that Arctic Council observer states can make new contributions to the work of the Council, and in particular, its working groups?
Well, thank you for this question. For Japan, since we joined in the Arctic Council Observer in 2013, our big change has taken place. Namely, our scientists have been working so hard in the interest of the Arctic. For example, the wildfire. Recently, it became a very fierce issue in the Arctic Council states and member states, and I understand that it's going to be the for agenda of the Arctic Council. But after I ran this, and I checked with our scientists and found out they've been doing the research activities of the wildfire in the Arctic long ago, since 2014 or even before. So, in terms of the further contributions to the Arctic Council, for the government view or for Japan, I think the most important thing is to let the scientists do the job. And I think that is one of the important components of the science diplomacy.
Thank you very much. So, Ambassador Tan, a slightly different take on the question. What about the Arctic states? What steps can the Arctic states take to promote greater contributions by observer states in the Council?
Great. That is a very good question. Observer states have been fortunate and privileged to be given the opportunity to take the Arctic journey, to do their part in contributing to preserving the Arctic well-being. So I think the Arctic member states can do to encourage observer states to contribute even more. I think first thing first is that the member states can consider renewing the the observer states status for 5 years or longer. So that will provide a longer runway for the observer states to plan their Arctic activities, and also to find resources to put in place a long-term plan within the country, so that all these efforts and programs can collectively contribute to lowering down the Arctic temperature. As it is now, the observership is subject to renewal once every 5 years. So that will put the time frame on the planning parameters of all these observer states. So I thought that the first thing that the Arctic member states can consider is to renew the Arctic observer states tenure for a longer period. 2, for Arctic to be relevant, apart from the scientific focus of studies, actually it's all about the people. And I look forward to Arctic Council offering more dialogue opportunities and the discourse with observer states. So with more conversations going on, more new ideas will be explored, and then more new programs can be put in place by the respective Arctic members, the observer states. So that will also directly encourage Arctic observer states to take an active participation in the Arctic Council's activities, not just at the council level, but also at the working group levels as well as the task force level. And another avenue, actually as mentioned by my Japanese counterpart, Ambassador Takewaka, is that actually the Asian member state, the observer states can actually work together to find common topics and agenda where we can work together to create a greater momentum of the Arctic movements in the Asian region. Likewise, observer states in other parts of the world, like European side, and maybe in future South Africa or South American side, can likewise be given the opportunity to work together so that we can actually bring the discourse, the dialogue on the Arctic Council and its agenda to different parts of the world. As I mentioned in my speech, that what happens outside the Arctic doesn't stay outside the Arctic. They are all interconnected, they are all interactive. As a result, one activities in one area will invariably affect the well-being of the other area. And therefore, we need all people to come together to come up with global solutions to tackle these very important subjects of global warming, Arctic melting, and sea level rising. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Ambassador Park, if I may, how can Asian observer states in particular work together more actively to contribute to the Council? What do you think?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So as a matter of fact, initially, Ambassador Gao already explained there have been a higher level conversation, dialogue among three countries, Korea, Japan, China, from between 2016 to 2019. So we held 4 rounds of a government level dialogue, trilateral dialogue, and it was focused on scientific cooperation. So, but after that, because of the COVID, the trilateral meeting has been suspended. So this is the government level dialogue. And on the other hand, we are still having a cooperation, a scientific cooperation consultation among 3 countries at the scientist context. So this year in Hokkaido, we all participated. The meetings, the title of the meeting is NPARC. So that stands for North Pacific Arctic Research Community, something like that. And 3 countries, scientists, experts are getting together. As far as I remember, it was held since 2014. And 3 countries, private institutes are hosting this meeting, scientific meeting, by rotation. So this year, it was held in Hokkaido. And so this is the perfect example for the 3 countries making cooperation. And I think, because we are gathering together, 5 Asian observer states are gathering together, so probably we can expand the level and the scope to 5 countries, if it's possible. And also, we don't have to collaborate collectively. I mean, we channel, and so we can make more contribution bilaterally, trilaterally, or with 5 countries, or we can collaborate with European countries. So there are many ways. But I know because this is Asian Observer States session, and I counted the number of the countries which is directly related to Arctic Circle, including observer countries. So there are 8 Arctic Council member states. So they are mostly European states. And when I participated in the Warsaw meeting last month, so observer states are 13 countries. So among this whole bunch of countries, there are only 5 Asian countries. So I think that's why we are receiving some attentions from the audience. But anyhow, I think we can make contribution among 5 Asian observer countries, can make more collaborative measures, but also we can collaborate with European countries.
So thank you very much. So there's a sign up here that says shift to Q&A, and I think that that's a command to shift to Q&A. So I turn the floor back over to my co-moderator.
Yeah, well, thank you very
President
much. Maybe we get the lights up in the hall. So for those of you who want to put questions, I was reflecting on it, listening to this interesting discussion, that at least one thing has changed in these 10 years. This kind of dialogue would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And now we find it a natural part of our proceedings. I also want to point out that I also find it very interesting that all of you in your deliberations and presentations talked in a way as if the Arctic Council, which I hope it is still up and kicking as a fully fledged body as it was before. That was not the case at the last assembly or even before that. It was still a big question mark. Okay, so we have a question there at the back.
Thanks very much. Jim Gamble, Pacific Environment. And during my time working in the Arctic Council, I'm very fortunate in that I've gotten to work with representatives from all your countries, and your level of involvement can't be questioned. Clearly, your interests in the Arctic are very genuine. But one question I'd like to ask is that another thing your countries have in common is you are very active in the global shipping industry and active at the International Maritime Organization. So during a time when Arctic shipping is increasing and there are concerns about how to do it safely and cleanly, I'm wondering what your thoughts are about shipping in the Arctic and how to do it right.
Well, we'll take a few questions here since time is short. Yes.
Thank you very much, Leif Lundsmann from Denmark. I would like to hear each of you, if you were to invite one more Asian observing member to the Arctic Council, which country would you point at, each of you?
That's an optimistic question, given the diplomatic tradition.
Right.
So, do we have a question in the back there?
President Grímsson, could I, right here, behind the podium.
Sorry?
Right
Oh,
here.
there, okay.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. And then we have one at the back there. Yeah.
I appreciate your comments today. I guess one question I would have is your nations invest all over the world, and in the Arctic, there is significant need for infrastructure investment into, as you mentioned, hotels, investment into the infrastructure to bring more Asians to the north. Can you give us a little bit of insight into how you would invest and how that would look?
Okay, we'll take the final question from up there.
Thank you very much. My name is Larry Ibrahim Mohammed. I'm a PhD research fellow at UIT, the Arctic University of Norway, and I'm originally from Ghana. I want to find out from the panelists what they think about the idea of a global Arctic. Do they think that the Arctic Council should expand its framework to make it truly global by getting other countries or representatives from worldwide, right? Thank you.
Okay, so in the interest of time, as we see here, I'm not going to let all of you answer all of the questions. But I will give you an opportunity to kind of bid for the question. So who wants to bid for the fisheries question?
Fisheries?
Either Japan or Korea, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Shipping?
President,
Yes, okay,
chairman
yes,
of
please,
the,
yes.
COFA.
And try to be short,
COFA.
try to be
Chairman.
short, yes.
Is the chairman of the
Yeah.
COFA.
It is about the first question, shipping. It's not fishing, right?
No, fishing.
Alpha?
Fishing.
Fishing?
I think it's fishing.
Shipping.
Shipping.
Whatever. Yeah, I will answer.
Shipping or fishing?
These two areas. First of all, shipping, because all of our Asian 5 countries are having a very sufficient power, ability, and technology in this field of shipping. And especially Korea is because this is about climate change, I think. And we are very eager to lead in this world, in this, the green shipping areas. And for example, we are trying to experiment this green shipping corridors with the United States. And probably next month, COP28, we'll make more specific proposals with the United States about this green shipping corridors concept. And also we want to add one more country to more diversified and expensive experiments for this green shipping corridors. And also we have actually 3 big giant shipbuilding companies, and they are very capable to make this eco-friendly. Sometimes it's about LNG carriers, sometimes it's about icebreakers. So
I have to stop you there, because we're getting this message here. We still have 4 questions to answer. So who is going to, sorry about that, give us one-line answers.
Okay,
yeah.
Maybe I will just take the questions on the Asian observer state, one additional one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this is a wrong question posed for the wrong panel. You should ask the Arctic Council member states that which Asian countries should be admitted as observer state.
Okay, I told you it was pointless to ask them about.
Let me talk about,
you want to, yes.
Let me talk about investment, perhaps?
Wait, just a moment, yeah, sure. You want?
Yeah, very briefly about investments. Certainly medical services is one thing in India. We have a lot of medical tourism, both inward and outward, and nursing staff. And another thing is payment services. 46% of all, real-time payment services are being done in India. In fact, if you take the next 4 nations together, the number of payments, 10.5 billion payments we did last month itself, real-time payments. And if I could take a long shot at next observer for the at the Arctic Council, I would say let's go. You can probably think of for the G20 this time, the African Union became an observer.
Okay. Okay.
So why not the African Union also becoming an observer at the Arctic Council?
Okay, the investment fact.
Investment.
The investment.
Yes, investment. I mentioned tourism. I think tourism, of course, is a very clear target area that can absorb so much investment. Another one, I think, in Arctic, relating to the Arctic, could be the shipping route. We talk about quite a lot about infrastructure improvement, if there is any infrastructure already in place, but that need to be improved. Satellite. Communication, connectivity for the people, indigenous people. I think there is a very heavy workload by each of the new work chairship of the Arctic Circle. But I think we need to see more result. We are waiting to see the opportunities to really bring about more result. By each of the...
Great.
Short correction.
So,
AU has become a member, not an observer of the G20. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, we are already 4 minutes over our time. So thank you very much, all of you, for coming to the stage and presenting this viewpoint. Of course, it is correct, as was pointed out, the Asian countries are not the only observer states in the Arctic Council. But the question about the investment that came from our friend from Alaska, who was actually a prominent investor in Iceland, especially in the hotels. The other major foreign investor in the hotels in Iceland is actually from an Asian country which is not represented here, Malaysia. If anybody had predicted 10 years ago that Alaska and Malaysia would be the major player in the Icelandic hotel sector, nobody would have believed that. That's your answer to your question about the global Arctic. So thank you very much indeed. And now President Macron.